I think I neglected to look at the big picture of things. Like, would there be jobs out there in which I could do, and if there was a demand for such a profession? If I would have known then what I know now, I may have tweaked my career choice a little more carefully. And I am not here to tell you that you can't do what you want to do. I am just saying you might want to look at the entire picture before making a career choice. I did 2 years at New Hampshire Technical College in the Building Construction Technology program. I really enjoyed my time at New Hampshire Technical College because I felt like I belonged, even if I was the only one there who was in a wheelchair. Maybe it was because it was a small college, only about 2,000 students. When students had time between classes, they mingled in the cafeteria. I was one of 2 women in the building construction class, out of about 25 men. I must admit it was quite fun being in the class with all those guys. Some guys were as sweet as pie, while a few others thought a woman's place was at home in the kitchen. These guys didn't bother me because I never worked out on the site with them holding a hammer, but my friend did, and she got some flack about choosing a male-oriented profession. At times, it really got to her. Sometimes she wanted to throw in the towel. I told her not to pay attention to them because they had tunnel vision and believed what they were taught to believe. We had some great instructors who treated us with respect, and I think they really enjoyed us in their classes.
Sorry.
I have to admit when I transferred to Roger Williams University from New Hampshire Technical College, it was a totally different atmosphere. At my first meeting with Roger Williams, they considered me a liability on the basis of what might happen if I got hurt when I was on campus. I lived in a dorm on campus, and they were very afraid that they were going to be sued if the dorm caught on fire, and I didn't get out. After I heard this from the residence director and other people around the table that day, I knew my time at Roger Williams wasn't going to be easy. I felt like I rolled around campus with a big liability sign on my back. There were a few people at Roger Williams who really helped me along, but I usually felt like an outsider looking in. Want to hear a funny story about my first full day at Roger Williams? It was a beautiful, late August day. My dormitory was situated right below the Mount Hope Bridge, a gorgeous spot. So I was just hanging out, enjoying the day, when I see a bee buzzing around me. I'm not the type of person who freaks out when I see a bee, so I chilled. My left hand tends to have a lot of movement and flails around a bit. The next thing I know, I had the bee in my clutches of my left hand. I couldn't have done such a thing if I tried. Quickly, I opened my hand and the bee flew off. Now, I hadn't ever gotten stung before. I had no idea if I was allergic or not. Still, I remained calm. So, I went back into my room and planted myself by the phone. I had to make a decision. Who would I call first if I went into anaphylactic shock? My mom or 911? If I called Mom, she could have called Roger Williams to tell him my situation. On the other hand, if I did feel like I was going into anaphylactic shock, 911 probably would get to me faster. I continued to go back and forth, deciding who I might call first. And then I realized several minutes had passed by and I was still perfectly fine and breathing normally. After my excitement of not being allergic to bees, I began to laugh hysterically at myself over the last 10 minutes. I don't think that he was laughing too much because I squeezed the life out of him. But hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. I didn't even end up calling anybody. I just went up to the infirmary to have the nurse look at it. The stinger wasn't in there, and I was fine. Thankfully, I didn't have any more dramatic days, like that at Roger Williams. By my senior year at Roger Williams, slowly I woke up to the fact that this education I was getting wasn't going to supply me with the opportunities that the other architecture graduates were going to get with a complete architecture degree. I didn't quite realize the weight that not having 5 years of studio would have on my degree. Studio was the hands-on aspect of making models of buildings and landscapes. I physically wasn't able to do any of that. I did try to make a case that I could do all the studio on the computer. Roger Williams somewhat agreed, but if I would have went back for a few more years, I wasn't promised that my degree would have any more magnitude behind it. So I decided not to go back to college, to work incredibly hard for something that may not be there at the end. Was it a cop-out? Maybe it was, but I don't regret choosing not to go back. After graduating in 1993, I sent out over 200 resumes and cover letters to architectural firms across Rhode Island and eastern Massachusetts. I had very little luck in finding a job in architecture.